Take a breath. Go on. Do it right now. Feel that? That slow, effortless pull of air into your chest? That is the single most taken for granted miracle in the history of the universe. You have done it roughly 20,000 times today alone and have thought about it exactly 0 times. But here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. There was a version of this planet, a real, documented, geologically confirmed version, where that breath you just took would have dropped you dead in under 4 minutes. Not because of a gas leak, not because of pollution, but because the air itself simply did not contain oxygen. At all. Not a molecule. Not a trace. Just nothing you could use. And the truly unsettling part? Life was already here when that was the case. Something was already living on a planet that would kill you instantly. And it was perfectly happy about it. So let us go back. All the way back. Further than you think is possible to imagine. 4.5 billion years ago, Earth exists, but calling it Earth feels generous. It is more like a violent, volcanic, barely cooled ball of rock with an identity crisis. The sky above you is not blue. It is a thick, soupy brownish orange, choked with carbon dioxide, methane, sulfur dioxide, and ammonia. No ozone layer. The sun's ultraviolet radiation just hammers the surface with absolutely zero mercy, because nothing is stopping it. The oceans are there, yes, but they are greenish-gray and loaded with dissolved iron and sulfur compounds. Swim in them, and you would not exactly come back up refreshed. There is no soil, no trees, no animals, no insects, no sound except volcanic eruption, crashing waves, and wind moving across a landscape so alien it would give you nightmares for the rest of your very short life. This is Earth, home, and something is alive in it. Deep in those iron-gray oceans, in the hydrothermal vents and the warm, shallow coastal pools, microscopic life has already figured out how to exist. Single cells, no nucleus, no complexity, no ambition. They are called anaerobes, organisms that live without oxygen. In fact, for them, oxygen is not just unnecessary. It is lethal. Pour oxygen on them and they die? Quickly. These are the original landlords of this planet. And they have been running things, completely unchallenged, for over 1 billion years. Let that number breathe for a second. 1 billion years. Humanity has existed for roughly 300,000. The Roman Empire lasted 500 years. 1 billion years of microscopic single-celled organisms eating sulfur and releasing methane gas into an atmosphere that is essentially the world's worst sauna. They were not glamorous, but they were here first. And for a very, very long time, nothing was coming to challenge them. Then, and this is where the story turns, something small appears in the shallow coastal waters. Impossibly small. You would need a microscope to see it. You would probably look at it and shrug and move on. That would be a mistake. This organism is called a cyanobacterium. It looks like nothing special, but locked inside it is a chemical trick that has never been performed on this planet before. It can take sunlight, pull carbon dioxide from the water, and use that energy to build itself. And when it is done, when it has taken what it needs, it releases what it does not want. It releases oxygen. Now here is the comedy of it, and also the horror. This cyanobacterium is not doing this for you. It is not building toward anything. It has no plan, no agenda, no awareness that it is about to commit the largest act of environmental destruction in the history of life on Earth. It is just eating and breathing and going about its microscopic business. And yet, the world will never be the same. At first, nothing dramatic happens. The oxygen gets absorbed almost immediately by the iron dissolved in the oceans. The iron grabs onto every oxygen molecule and sinks to the seafloor in massive rusty layers. Geological records show this happening across billions of years of rock. Orange and red-banded iron formations, stacked up in layers, like the ocean quietly filing paperwork before the trial begins. The ancient anaerobic world goes on, completely unaware. The cyanobacteria multiply, spread, cover the shallow seas. The iron runs out. And this is where everything changes. This is where you need to lean in. Because when the iron runs out, the oxygen has nowhere left to go. It cannot be absorbed. It cannot be stored. It begins, molecule by molecule, to leak into the atmosphere. Slowly at first, then in larger quantities, then in quantities that begin to fundamentally alter the chemistry of the sky itself. Scientists call what happens next the Great Oxidation Event. It happened roughly 2.4 billion years ago. And if you had been standing on Earth the day this tipped, if such a thing were possible, it would have looked like nothing. No explosion, no flash of light, no dramatic moment. Just a slow, creeping, invisible tide of poison rolling across a world that had never encountered it before. Poison. That is what oxygen was to the dominant life on Earth. Think about that the next time someone hands you a green juice and calls it detoxifying. To the anaerobic organisms that had ruled this planet for over 1 billion years, the Great Oxidation Event was a mass extinction so complete that no human catastrophe comes close to touching it. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs wiped out perhaps 75% of species. The Great Oxidation Event killed the overwhelming majority of all life on Earth. Not with fire, not with impact, with air, with the air you are breathing right now. The survivors retreated into the only places oxygen could not easily follow. Deep ocean vents, airless mud at the bottom of swamps, the sealed, oxygen-deprived interiors of living bodies, including yours. Right now, in your gut, there are anaerobic bacteria living in an airless pocket of your intestines, descendants of the original rulers of this world, hiding from the same gas that their ancestors found catastrophic. Your digestive system is a refugee camp for the organisms that used to own everything. But the story does not stop there. Because the destruction was not done. When the methane in the atmosphere was destroyed by all this new oxygen, the planet lost one of its key greenhouse gases. Global temperatures did not just drop. They crashed. Earth froze. Not partially. Geologists believe the ice may have covered the planet from pole to equator, leaving the oceans sealed under thick sheets of ice for millions of years. Researchers call this snowball Earth. The cyanobacteria caused it. They pumped so much oxygen into the atmosphere that they accidentally triggered a planetary ice age that nearly ended all life, including themselves. These microbes nearly destroyed the world they created. And still, and this is the part that should keep you up at night, they survived. For hundreds of millions of years after that, Earth sat in a kind of biological holding pattern. Oxygen levels stabilized at a low level. Complex life was still not possible. Not yet. The planet was waiting, though nothing knew it was waiting. It just looked like nothing was happening. Then, roughly 800 million years ago, oxygen began rising again. Slowly, then powerfully. The oceans changed. The atmosphere thickened. And here, right here, is where the most important sentence in biology becomes possible. You cannot build a complex body without oxygen. The reason is energy. A cell using anaerobic metabolism extracts only a tiny fraction of the energy locked in a glucose molecule. But a cell using oxygen, aerobic respiration, extracts roughly 18 times more energy from the exact same molecule. 18 times. That is not a minor upgrade. That is the difference between powering a flashlight and powering a city. With that energy, cells could afford to specialize. To stop doing everything and instead do one thing brilliantly. Heart cells could pump. Nerve cells could fire. Eye cells could detect light. A body could divide its labor, build organs, build systems, build something that could eventually stand up and ask questions about where it came from. Every animal that has ever lived, every insect, every fish, every dinosaur, every primate, every human, is downstream of the moment oxygen made complexity affordable. The Cambrian explosion, that astonishing burst of animal diversity 540 million years ago where life seemed to invent itself 100 times over. That was not a coincidence. The deep oceans had finally become fully oxygenated. Life had finally had enough fuel to go wild. And wild it went. Fish evolved, crawled onto land, became reptiles, became mammals. One branch of those mammals stood upright on the African savanna, looked at the stars, and eventually developed the technology to make 17-second videos about absolutely nothing. And yet here you are, watching this, breathing, not even noticing. Here is what I want you to take away from all of this. Not as a fact to file away and forget, but as something you actually feel. The oxygen in your lungs right now is not a background feature of the universe. It is not guaranteed. It is not ancient. On a cosmic timescale, it is brand new. It was made by living things, for no reason, as a byproduct. It nearly destroyed the world twice. It froze the planet. It killed the dominant life form of an entire era. And it made you. The Amazon rainforest is not decoration. The ocean phytoplankton are not trivia. Every living, photosynthesizing organism on this planet is part of the same engine that a tiny, unremarkable microbe started building 2.7 billion years ago. An engine whose only output is the thing your body needs more than food, more than water, more than anything else. That engine has never stopped running. Not once. Not through ice ages. Not through extinctions. Not through anything. It has been running, quietly, without credit, this entire time. And without it, in 4 minutes, you would be just another anaerobe story. So take another breath. Feel it this time. You are not just inhaling air. You are inhaling the entire history of life on Earth. 2.7 billion years of survival, catastrophe, transformation, and impossible luck, compressed into a single, effortless, undeserved breath. You have been doing it 20,000 times a day. Maybe, just this once, it deserves a thank you.